for an update on the 16 project car we got. We did add boost. We're finishing up tuning on the dyno. We're gonna make a pull here, show you the numbers, the data, and we'll go over exactly what we did on this thing compared to when it was all motor. That looks good. So first the data. I'm gonna have you look at the data first. We're using the Cortex boost controller on this car. It's a 4-port controller. It's got great resolution, multiple profiles. I got a dyno profile set up here, so it's just static duty cycle, and the data logging is pretty nice. This log, I just saved it. Let's go ahead and change the scale. All right, now boost down the bottom. There's a glare here. There we go. So we make the pull here, and right there we hit 19.2 pounds of boost. Drops because we're freewheeling the dyno, and then boost starts to go back up, which we would expect. At the track it'll just be constant and we can adjust it, but we got 17.3 peak at 8440 RPM. Peak horsepower was right about there, 18 pounds. So at the track it'll make 19 going down the track. That is 19 pounds. The data here, just save this. Actually, let's open it up in a better view. The data log here, so you can see what we did. Resolution is kind of difficult because the car is revving so quickly. Ignition timing, we have it go up and then back down, and by peak horsepower, that's 21.5 degrees. We're way up there on RPM. Of course, this car revs to the moon. And MAF frequency, we're pulling some airflow, that's for sure. Comes up and it just stays flat. Boost controller controlling everything. No issues there. Let's see, air intake temp. Air intake temp right there. Air intake temp in Celsius. 8 degrees Celsius. We got an ice tank on here, and it goes up by the end of the pull 12 degrees. So 4-degree rise in Celsius. We'll see more at the track, but the intercooler's doing its job, that's for sure. Now for the power. Okay, that is correct. That is 1192.8 rear wheel horsepower, 6900, and 1043.9 torque at 5500. Boost is going to come in faster off the inertia drum, so on the street at the track it's going to come in faster, but we're getting boost pretty quick anyways for this single turbo. That is SAE corrected. Okay, so SAE correction factor is roughly corrected to 1900 foot DA. STD correction factor is roughly 50-foot DA. You can see STD correction is 1223 and 1070, and then no correction, because correction factors can mess with people. No correction. We are pretty warm today. It's June 24th, and it's not exactly cool in the shop, and it's kind of humid for where we are. It's 1086 and 950. We're at 1400 foot elevation here on the dyno, and it's hot, so the DA is probably around 3,000 feet. The track, of course, where we race at is going to be 75 feet. In the wintertime, we should be able to get 0 DA or even negative. But there you have it. That's the dyno numbers. Now to go over the setup. Things that have changed. I'm just going to go over what's changed and what's the same since we went 1018 at 135 on motor. The rear end, identical. We still have stock half shafts, stock aluminum diff. Hey, aluminum diff, stock half shafts. See the board part numbers on there. We're gonna see if they can hold it. It's got 331 gears in it still, haven't changed that. Still the 6R80. This 6R80 was upgraded with XD clutches and an intermediate shaft, I don't know, a year ago, when the JMS trans brake took out a couple clutches, so we stopped using that trans brake. We're using, there's the boost controller over there and the MSD two-step, so we got a boost controller and an MSD two-step. Nice little setup there, no big deal. We changed the intake manifold to a Boss. Got rid of the Super Cobra jet, went to the Boss. Reason for that is actually right here, the throttle body. It's a stock throttle body, nothing done to it. Got to have good seal, so the stock throttle body seals quite well on a Boss because it's round. The Super Cobra jet, not so much. Not to mention an oval transition right here. You know, from a round tube to oval is not exactly aesthetically pleasing. Okay. What else changed on this? It's the same motor, factory built engine, same L&M intake cams, stock valve springs, stock exhaust cams, stock block, rods, pistons, rings, blah, blah, blah. Everything's stock there. We put in ARP head studs back when we did the cams because we knew we were getting ready for boost. We bought this car specifically for boost. That's why we did the 6R80 instead of the manual transmission. If it was an all motor car, I would have gone with the manual transmission, but we knew we were going boosted. The heart of the system, of course, we've got a CPR turbo kit. I placed this order with Dustin probably 2 months after I bought the car, knowing that we were going to go with it. Whipple is, of course, the best supercharger on the market, and it's the most efficient, but nothing really beats the CPR turbo. We've done a lot of different turbo kits. We've done a lot of different stuff, and I mean, we just made what, almost 1,200 to the tires through a 6R80 with 18 pounds. It hit 19 peak at peak torque, but it dropped to 18 when it was making peak horsepower. So that's impressive. Brett Barber did port the intake manifold, and of course we did a little setup there to make it look good. This is a standard 76mm turbo that comes standard in the CPR turbo kit. We opted for the ported compressor housing, and I just made all that power through an air filter. We don't take off this air filter, and it doesn't even have the front open. So this is just a standard everyday green air filter, no different than a K&N or anything else, and we made almost 1,200 through that. The ice tank here from Watson Racing, we modified. They had, I think, 3/4 female fittings for the water. We opted for dash 16. It's an ice tank, and of course we will run through 10 pounds of ice on a pass. Ice is actually gone, but the water's ice cold. I let it sit for a little long. We opted for insulation on the lines and the air to water intercooler from CPR. This intercooler, can't really see it there, super efficient. The way he designed this is really good. I mean, really good. Obviously, if we're getting air intake temps as cold as we are with 1,200 horse. So those are the upgrades that we did from his kit. Essentially, the air to water, the compressor upgrade, and then we did our own custom exhaust. Now, if you didn't want to run ice in that ice tank, you could run the killer chiller. That's an option that we're going to do since this is a street car. It's fully muffled. I just haven't gotten around to it yet. So the killer chiller will keep the water, 45, 50 degrees, which just cruising around, and this thing will be ready to go on the street, at the track, whatever. Of course, at the track, make sure you're not dripping water on it, on the track. We still have the electric water pump that we had, all motor. So what we did from here was change the exhaust. We've got a single 5-inch going to an oval 5-inch, transitioning to dual 3.5. I don't know if we could see 3.5-inch exhaust under here, but we routed it right there. We routed it through the A-arm, and we had all the pipes, all the exhaust, the up pipes, put a blanket on them to keep the heat into the turbo, again, make it efficient. And we got 3.5-inch exhaust all the way out to custom Burns stainless 3.5-inch straight through mufflers. This is twin 3.5-inch through mufflers. It is a street car. Of course, the biggest problem here that I see is that we added weight, but not much you can do when you add a big old heavy turbo. We have a Peterson catch can that's vented to the atmosphere, and I did some custom stuff there. Let me think. Roadie Heaver's hot rod fuel system. Yep, that's what we did here. Roadie Heaver's hot rod fuel system. So this runs the twin GT350 pumps. We're using the factory line. We're feeding it right here, and then I ran 4 rails. So we're running different rails, ID 1300s, and a return line with a regulator going back in -8. We did run out of fuel at just over 1100 on this. So what we did, once you run out of fuel, I mean, you can't really expect, about 100 pounds per minute is the limit of the Roadie Heavers or the twin GT350 with no restriction. 1100, I mean, 100 pounds per minute, 102, 105, somewhere around there, you're going to run out, and it's going to start dropping pressure. So we added a JMS booster pump, set it at 18 volts, and no problem at 1200 to the tires. So those of you that are running a turbo with rails, or with the Roadie Heaver's hot rod system and stock rails, you're going to be limited by the stock rails somewhere under 1,000 to the tires. Maybe you can hit 1,000 to the tires. The stock rails are kind of restrictive. Go with an aftermarket rail, you can go up higher. You're going to run out somewhere around 100 pounds per minute. If your turbo is really efficient, that could be 1100, that could be 1050, whatever. Depends on the manual versus auto. Once you do the rails and you run out there, just add a booster pump, you're good to go. Stock feed line still. And then if you really wanted, Tim will build you a triple hat with no issues. And these pumps run, the reason why we use this kit is these pumps run half voltage all the time, so they never wear out. And when you put your foot into it, it runs full voltage just like factory. We run FPDMs. And in the event of an accident, the fuel pump shut off just like factory stock. So that's why we run this setup. It's safe, it's effective, and you're not going to lose a pump. I believe that's it on this car. That's all that's changed. We're planning on taking it out to the track here once the heat subsides. I don't like racing in the heat, so if we can get some days under 100, I'll probably take it out and start dialing it in, the suspension and the shift points. And we are expecting to beat the S550 stock motor record at 895. I don't really see that we're going to need 1200 horsepower to do it, but we got it on tap in case we do. So stay tuned. We're going to start getting this thing down the track and see what kind of records, or I guess I shouldn't say records because everybody's got a record for micro records, but we'll see what kind of times we can get and set the bar pretty high, I think, is what we're going to end up doing. All right, guys, have a good one.